So I was just reflecting this morning, about basically when you look at all the things that we do, that we work to achieve, when you look at all those things, like you can list piles of them, your mortgage, clothes, having some kind of family life, you look at all the things that that we work at, I ask myself the question, could there be, can you hear okay with the kettle on? Okay. Could there be anything more important than having control over your mind? How would you rank that in terms of what's important? To be free from fear and hope, and free from all anticipation. Just take a moment to evaluate that. I'm just going to mute everyone. Okay. According to me, that's the most important thing. Imagine, like...
Sorry, Martin, are you recording yet?
Oh, yes, I am. Yes. So, I think that's the most important thing. Whether you believe the Buddhist stuff about whether we have a future life or not, imagine just having control over your mind, not being free from anticipation. If you look at it, anticipation is a really good word. So this particular style of meditation is effortless. I think I've drummed that into your skulls at this stage. It's effortless, but it's not sloppy or absent-minded. This is an important point. Even though it's effortless, you have to is the wrong word. You should allow yourself to remain present. And the meditation only becomes difficult because our grasping is so familiar. Our grasping is so familiar. This is what makes meditation difficult. Meditation itself is not difficult at all. Now, here's an important point. Wanting to reject is grasping. Do you understand this? You're meditating and you're saying, this is not the meditation state. I want the meditation state. That is grasping. Expecting something better. With this style of meditation, you have to allow yourself to be okay with whatever is happening in your mind. This is the essential instruction. You have to allow yourself to be okay with however your mind is. You have to surrender. You have to allow. Don't control. Neither pursue nor reject. You have to allow your mind to free itself. Okay? So let's give that a lash. So it's kind of tricky. You have to allow and yet remain present. It's so simple. When you notice you're distracted, the distraction is already gone. There's nothing to be done. There isn't anything to hold on to, not even meditation. Nothing to hold on to. Open. So, how do you feel?
Martin, could I just ask you a wee question?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. See when you say free from hope and anticipation, what is wrong with hope and what do you mean by anticipation?
Yeah, this is interesting. You see, something happens. You know, like a thought happens, you meet somebody, you see something, you hear something, any of these things, right? And it's just what it is. But then, with anticipation, we have an idea of how it should be. That idea of how it should be is the origin of grasping. That's how we suffer.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm delighted I came up with that word anticipation. It hits it. I actually spent a little while with a thesaurus. I had a rough draft, and I spent a little while with a thesaurus. I still fell into the same old uh, trap of you should this, you know. Cesti was given out to me, and whereas it's basically about allowing. It's not about control, you know. The one last thing I was going to say is, I think Margaret wants to say something as well. Let me just finish. Let me just finish my little bit. Something that, you know, like in Tibetan Buddhism, there are thousands and thousands of methods of working with mind, and in particular, there are very powerful yogic methods that involve certain postures, visualizations, movements of energy, all that kind of stuff. Right? They can be quite difficult. Tummo is an example. They can be quite difficult to do. You've just achieved that in 5 minutes by doing nothing. These teachings are extraordinary. These are the most amazing teachings. That's my concluding comment. Now, Margaret, and anybody else who needs to go, let's say goodbye and so on.
This could be rooted in my perhaps black and white approach to thinking. So you want to plan something. You have some idea of what it is that you want to do, and you have some hope for a particular outcome, and an aversion to another outcome, for example.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's every day. It's all the time. It's not. I'm not talking about big projects. Little things, all the time. Anticipation is a nice kind of it's a toned down version of that hope thing.
Yeah.
I don't. You see, I don't.
Okay. I think I can short circuit it very quickly if you like, Margaret.
Yeah.
Okay. What I'm talking about is meditation practice. That's the first thing. I'm not talking about everyday life. Okay. In order to go on retreat, right, I have to plan. You know, I have to shop for food. All those kind of things. It's ordinary, right? Now, normally when we plan with our grasping mind. Right? And the act of rejecting certain outcomes and anticipating others distorts our planning. When you practice this style of meditation, the judgmental mind is replaced by intuitive knowing. You'll notice already when you practice the meditation, you see things more clearly. without the web of hope and fear.
Okay, so
You still have to shop in the supermarket.
yeah,
You still have to know what, you still have to plan, oh, I'm going to run out of butter. You know, okay, all of that. But this grasping aspect is missing. As you become more and more familiar with your own natural state, your own nature.
so what are you integrating then into ordinary life?
Two things: compassion, which arises spontaneously from the freedom you experience. As you know, when you practice in this way, there's a certain freedom comes. You've seen it, like you feel it yourself there after 5 or 10 minutes, you know. And so when you meet situations, there's like a compassion, a feeling of oneness with, and a feeling of the desire that people be free from suffering and that they be happy. That's one, and that integrates into your everyday life. So, right, that's one thing. And the second thing is this intuitive wisdom, this clarity, this non-judgmental evaluation of what's in front of you. These are really good questions.
Lots of work to do then.
It's only a question of familiarization. You are already that person.
Can I ask the second question?
Yeah, go on.
You're sitting in meditation and an habitual line of thought arises that has an emotional kind of attachment.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you recognize it.
Yeah.
And for a second, and then you're gone again.
Yeah.
And you're hooked back in again and again and again. Is it the recognizing of this is something that hooks me and keeps me coming back to it again and again and again, that weakens it, or is there a quick fix?
The first thing I'd have to say is welcome to my world. You know, you're there, you're not there, you're not there, you're there, you're not there, you're there. Welcome to my world. This word recognize is a very dicey word. I know Evelina and some of the Southern Mandela people will know I have a problem with the word recognize. You see, recognize has normally when we say recognize, it means that you have a concept about something. That's not what's meant in these teachings when they talk about recognize. Right? I said something very important there during the spiel, during the sit, and that was, when you see that you're distracted, it's already over. That's the recognition. I don't know if that might be worth exploring a little bit.
Yeah, and then you can just fall straight back into it.
Exactly. And then you fall out of it again. That's what we're doing. There's nothing wrong, you see. Now, as you become more and more comfortable with just being open, free, as you become more and more comfortable with that, even the tricky thought comes, the tricky emotion, even that comes, and on its coming, on what we say, as it arises, it frees itself, because you're not trying to manipulate. You see, this is, if the quote that I sent out, it said here, the hosts of dualistic thoughts clear away like the dispersed clouds in the sky, and the seed, this is a critical one, the seed of cyclic existence is exhausted. You see, when you don't react to that, that tricky one, when you don't react to the tricky one, what does it do? What does the tricky one do if you don't react? What happens?
Dissolve.
Exactly. So as you more and more rest in your own nature, as you rest in your own nature, all that stuff dissolves.
And the practice is letting it dissolve again and again and again.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And each time you have that recognition. Now, I'm going to say this now. This may get conceptual, so please excuse me. Each time you have that recognition of its empty nature, and by that I don't mean some kind of intellectual analysis of it. I mean a direct recognition of this is an appearance. It's real as an appearance, but it has no solidity. So when you recognize that, then the thought dissolves, the emotion dissolves, the encounter dissolves.
No quick fix then. Sorry.
Now come here, wait a minute now. I gave you the quick fix already.
I know.
Okay,
Yeah.
stop. I gave you the quick fix already. As soon as you recognize it's over, that's the quick fix. It's wonderful.
Martin, maybe recognize isn't such a bad word
Go on.
if you hear it as recognize.
And again, you have to be careful. Even when you use the word cognize, people have the impression that cognize means concretize, separate from. It is real. It's one of the ones. Some of us who it's one of the ones that you appreciate more and more and more. How tricky language is, because inbuilt into our language is conceptualization, is this dualistic take on things. It's interesting. The Buddha gave one sermon. What was the sermon? The sermon caused one person in his assembly to become liberated. What was the sermon? He held up a flower. He didn't say a word. He held up a flower, and one person in the assembly got it. It's called something. I can't remember the name of it. So, in other words, the very words that we're using to try and convey this is why, the very words that we use to try and convey these things have these conceptual traps in them. And that's what, in some ways, that's why I have to keep repeating myself. Saying the same thing over and over again is saying it in slightly different ways. Recognize isn't a bad word, Evelina. Okay. But you have to be careful. It's like all of them. You just have to be careful that you don't fall into the trap of making something solid.
When you make something solid, you then enter into more hope and fear, hope and anticipation, about, oh, I'm going to recognize, I didn't recognize.
Yeah, but one could nearly, that could nearly be the seed of more thoughts, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Exactly.
I've got it.
Exactly.
That's how it is. And then next time you anticipate, you want it to be like that again, and that stirs again. Then
It's
isn't it?
grasping,
Yeah.
it's grasping,
Yeah.
grasping. It's
Happy-
lack of
happy-
openness. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you really got it, Irene, by the way.
Well, I'm reading in this beautiful book, Mingyur Rinpoche, how does he say it? It's called, God, I forgot it. Transforming confusion into
Wisdom.
clarity.
Yeah.
Not
Clarity,
transforming,
okay.
that's a different word beginning.
Yeah.
So beautiful, and this mind of letting go, just let be, just be alive. And anyway, it's just, I can't say it, but it's just
This
really
Dutch
helping
Rinpoche.
you with everything you obviously you convey so clearly. Thank you.
Okay.